Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 55 of the Tait Talks podcast. Today I'm with Joel Temperley. How are you, mate?
Hello, Australia. Hello, Tait.
Thank you so much for coming to my home.
It's a fine house.
Thank you. I don't own it, so
Okay.
I'll send that to the landlord.
Okay. Well, I love what you've done with it. I love the vibe. It's very good. I feel very safe here.
Well, you're welcome. That's how that doesn't change.
It's a very ominous thing to say. I feel very safe.
Yeah.
Okay. Jeez,
Just wait.
Didn't realise I was in danger. No.
So I was going to say, I don't know if I mentioned this, but you're an English teacher.
Yeah. I teach English online via Zoom. Been doing that on Zoom for about 2 years now.
How on earth did you get into that?
Well, it goes back a while, probably 10 years ago, to getting sick of my old job and just wanting to travel overseas and make some cash while I do it, rather than just go overseas for 2 weeks or so. And I wanted to go over for a long time. And teaching English as a second language overseas, decent amount of cash. And I did that. And then fast forward to the pandemic. In Melbourne, I'd come back here intermittently, and I'd work at a school teaching new arrivals. March 2020, and most of those places closed down, and I kind of chilled for a while, as we all did. And but then I think it was my girlfriend who mentioned a company that they tee you up with students. There's a few of those. They tee you up with students, and you just go from there. And I've been doing that since August 2021.
Okay. So that's the online stuff. So you used to have a job, like another job, obviously. You said you hated your job and want to go traveling.
Right, yeah.
What were you doing then?
I was working in regulatory economics.
Okay.
Sounds very... I used to tell people I work for the government, but that sounds way cooler than what I actually did. They assume I worked for ASIO, but I didn't. I worked for the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission.
The ACC.
The ACCC, yeah. I like to call it the ACCC, actually.
Okay,
yeah. AC cubed.
For
the algebra fans.
Yes, maths is contingent.
Shout out to the math heads.
Yeah.
You do the math.
Yes.
Math, damn it.
Yeah.
Stuffed up my own joke. Okay. I should stick to English teaching and steer clear
Here's the clip.
comedy. Yep. Ah, dear, bombing in the first 5 minutes. Okay.
That's right. It's actually 3 minutes in, but...
Yeah, I've actually... But I worked there. I was working... Basically, people know them as, they're the guys who, we were talking off air about if your laptop's defective, you call the ACCC up and say, hey, these guys sold me a dodgy laptop and they won't give me, compensation. Or something like that. Some dodgy products, you call the ACCC and they'll, have a crack at them. But they also do all the gas company regulation. They're monopolies. And that was what I was working in. So did that for a while, 4.5 years.
Just didn't enjoy it, too boring? Why'd you leave?
Pretty much. It was kind of like, hey, there are midlife crises. That was probably like a 2/5 or 1/6 life crisis. You know what I mean? I was
bring back the maths now.
Hurts. But it was probably I started that job when I was 21.
Okay.
Straight out of university, went high school to university, then straight into the ACCC, and there was half a year at Melbourne Uni where I failed miserably at an honours degree, but that was awful. But then 2010 I was 22. 22 to 25ish. I was at the ACCC, and it's just like that feeling of I've got a desk job.
Yeah, okay.
It's kind of this, if I was the age I am now, I'd be hanging on to that job for dear life. But at the time, I was like, I got to get out of here. I need to do stuff.
What did you study?
Economics.
Yeah, okay.
Economics and law, but not a double degree. It was just a major. So I think it says on the certificate, the piece of paper that's scrunched up under my bed somewhere.
Yeah.
It was Deakin, so whatever. But law degree from Deakin. No, I'm kidding. But basically, Sorry, I keep looking at the camera. But basically, there was some,
What are you supposed to look at?
I don't know. I'm doing a real. I'm doing a real like
The winks.
Jim from The Office, like.
Yeah. Fourth wall.
Yeah, fourth wall, man. Meta, barely knew her. But basically, I was Bachelor of Commerce, major in economics and commercial law. Of two topics which I know very little about anymore.
Yeah. Okay.
You asked me about interest rates. How's the economy doing? I'm like, I don't know. Good.
English is good. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I have to steer the conversation towards like, what's the difference between a noun and a verb, basically. Yeah.
If you ask me those questions, I literally wouldn't know.
Go on. What is the difference? Go on.
I have no fucking clue. I'm not even joking. I'm so bad with all English proper stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just ridiculously bad at it. I know how to speak English, I think. Write it down.
Well, you speak English. Why do you need to know about it? You know. You know what I mean?
Kinda, yeah. If I try and tweet something, I'm fucked.
I remember.
Waiting for AI to be able to do my grammar.
Well, that's exactly right. If anything, we're all just waiting for AI to just sort it out.
Yeah.
You know, take us.
That's the fucking podcast in too.
Yeah, render us like little. We'll be chimps in a zoo, happy, and the AI can have the world, and it'll be much more pleasant.
Yeah.
But what was I going to say? Yeah, I remember studying in high school. I was studying Indonesian in year 12, and the Indonesian teacher was trying to teach us Indonesian grammar, like the rules.
Oh, yeah.
And there isn't a lot of grammar in Indonesian, but still she was doing the whole like, okay, here's the subject, here's the verb, and we're like, whoa, and she looked at us like, what? And she had to bring in the English teacher to teach us basic grammar, so then we could continue learning Indonesian.
Yeah. That's pretty much where I would fall down if someone.
Right. So yeah, you're not the only one.
Like,
I was just like you.
Yeah.
I once was lost, now I'm found.
Yeah. The bad thing is like I still don't know it, and now you teach it. So one of us excelled in that path.
There are still subjects I'm scared of teaching. Like I sign up for a class, like I'll take that class. You just scroll through the timetable, and then you see the topic. It's like adverbial clauses or like relative, like like a different language. It's the way they label some English terms.
Yeah.
I even say that at the start of classes. I'm like, don't get scared by the heading. It's okay. Proper nouns. Like it's okay. It's just names.
Yeah.
They should have just said names of things.
Okay.
They didn't need to scare you. There you go. What's a proper? You now know what a proper noun is.
Yeah.
Tait is a proper noun.
Yeah. All right. Sweet.
There you go.
Thank you, Joel.
I'll invoice you.
Okay, and I will not pay.
Good.
Thank you.
I wouldn't respect you if you did.
Yeah. So you started teaching English. Okay. So you finished up with that job, the white collar desk job.
Yeah.
You were like, I need to do something else. And where did you go?
So did a little short course, and then that via that it teed me up with a job in Beijing. So China,
yes.
As opposed to Beijing, Northamptonshire.
Yes.
And
Beijing, Canada.
Well, it's funny you don't. Sometimes you do because when I say I lived in Moscow, there's a Moscow in like Ohio.
Oh.
So you do need a
Yeah, but everyone's seen films and they're like, yeah, Moscow, where
I guess
the fun stuff happens, Die Hard and all that.
Yeah, all the no, Mr. Bond, I expect you today.
That's how I assume Russia is like.
Well, you got to be careful of making that distinction because I remember, where was I? I don't know. Yeah, I've made that mistake before, like looking up tourist attractions. Oh, we should go to this, go to that. And it's like, no, that's the American.
Yes.
Like you're looking up. Oh no, St. Petersburg. It was. I looked up St. Petersburg. There's a Dali museum in St. Petersburg. While I was living in Russia, I was like, let's go there. And it was St. Petersburg, Florida.
Oh, okay.
So,
yeah.
There you go.
I mean, now we've jumped to Russia. So
we'll
get back there. So, unless you went there, no, you went overseas.
So here's my little Wikipedia timeline.
Yeah.
Beijing, July 2015 to July 2016.
Okay.
Then there's other stuff traveling. I traveled through Laos on the way back to Australia, but basically, sounds so wanky, don't I? I traveled through Laos. Then
you say it like that, yes.
Yeah, in 2015 to 2016, it's all gentrified, and 2016 was peak Laos. But then 2017, basically all of it was Moscow.
Okay.
Russia. And then
yes.
March 2018 to September or October 2019 was China again, but a place called Chengdu.
Okay, so 2 lots in China.
Yeah, 2 tours of duty.
Yes.
Mm.
Wait, what was the last dates?
Oh, March 2018 to September 2019.
Okay, so just as you released the virus, you left.
Yeah,
so.
I got into the lab, and you might have to get rid of this. There's going to be a little warning at the bottom.
Staying in.
You want the warning on the bottom of the podcast, don't you?
Yeah.
But like no,
Chinese man tells secrets.
Yeah, people were. I had a not to get into comedy too early, but I had a joke like my biggest regret from my time in China was taking. It was like at the peak of COVID. It was like, it's days like today. I really regret taking that tour of the Wuhan laboratory when I was hungover and knocking over all those beakers. But I was just in the mood to knock over all those beakers, I don't know. Just days like this, I feel like that might have been a little bit selfish. But people were joking with me when I came back to Australia. Remember at an Australia Day party in 2020?
Yes.
People were joking.
One of the last ones.
Before the dark times, before the empire. People were making jokes, cracking wise about me just coming back from China 3 months ago, and all the news was like, "Oh, what about it, Joel? Yeah." And it was fun. We're like, yeah. But then 2 months later, it was like, oh, geez, the world ended.
Yeah.
Whoops.
Fuck you, Joel.
Yeah.
You beacon breaking bastard.
There were a couple people at that party who had kids and were like, no, but seriously, like you got tested, right? Because I'm at that age where my friends have decided to have children, so they're actually like, but for real, Turquoise and Jaden, we're worried about them.
Their future.
Yeah.
So you go to China.
Yeah.
First time overseas,
No.
living overseas.
Yeah, living overseas. Yeah. First time I lived away from first time not with the parents. Actually, it was my first place of my own was Beijing.
Oh, really?
That was my first ever living. Yeah, first time ever.
That's
my first
crazy.
owner. Yeah, it was a little weird.
Yeah.
First time renting a place. First time. Yeah, it was crazy.
So what's it like? You're pretty young. You end up going to China, Beijing. You get a job in a field that you are still pretty new in. What's that like going, okay, I guess this is my career now and I will be teaching students, I assume, in China? Yeah,
well, in terms of the career thing, at the time it was just, I'm overseas, I'm making good money. You make enough money there doing that you don't need to worry about, you can just hang out and have fun. So, yeah, I didn't really think of it as a career. It was just a career. It's just a change to something else. I was overseas.
Pretty big change.
Yeah, big change, but I was overseas doing what young people are supposed to do. I'm overseas just hanging out and, finding myself. And but in terms of who I taught, that first one was, it was mostly kids aged 5 to, say, 10.
Okay, do they have a grasp of English already, or are you the first point of reference?
They got a little bit. So I was teaching them in one of these private institutions. They go to after school, which they've actually since cracked down on quite heavily in China. They're a little some of them are pretty shady.
Oh, what?
So,
How?
Well, like the people they hired, put it this way, there were a lot of Vladimirs from Toronto. A lot of, yes, I am your English teacher today. A, B, C. Speaking of my girlfriend, that's how we met. We met at that school. And, but no, she's good. But there were a lot of suspicious, sort of, the hires were a little bit, and, it was that, because, like, the middle class booming in China, a lot of kids.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents, a lot of, like, we got to, maximize the competition amongst children. It's not a question of are you going to send your kid to one of those after-school English companies. It's like, which one? So there's a lot of, I think, them started based on that boom. A little bit like, hey, we can get in on this. So the one I worked for, I don't know, made it work, but you could see sort of like, now looking back, it was a bit rushed, maybe a little bit like, cutting corners a little bit, maybe just shove all the kids in. There's 5-year-olds in the classroom.
And they just
and just like, flashcards, giraffe, apple. It's felt a bit, kind of thing. Like, feel like I do a class and everyone's like, good job. And I'm like, I'm hungover and I'm like, I'm getting away with murder here. What the hell? I don't know. I'm probably scarring these kids for life.
And not teaching them the right stuff.
I think it was alright. It's just I wasn't very inventive. Like I just did this same stuff over and over. Like, some of the teaching, like the people who work for the company, like, we need to develop the class and add. I'm like, nah.
Giraffe.
I got a dice. And we roll it. It's a 6. So if it's 6, point to red. Done. That was my.
Actually, go too.
That's alright. I thought that was pretty good. It's fun.
Is that the still standard that you go by now?
Yeah, basically,
So
yeah.
Teaching them roulette.
Yeah, basically, they got to learn. Macau's just there. True. They're gonna wind up there eventually. May as well learn how it is. Just get with the times or whatever. But I did that, and
it was 2 years.
That was
15, 16.
Yeah, 1 year, July to July.
Okay, yeah. So then let's stay in China. What's it like you're 25?
In 2015, 27.
27. So you've been around a bit. You're not like a young adult. You know certain things. You're not a fucking complete reprobate, I hope.
No, I mean, well, when you're teaching English overseas, you can become one.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's pretty
cruisy.
Pretty cruisy.
Yeah. So what's a day-to-day or week-to-week life for Joel in Beijing?
I mean, the hours were weird for starters. So what were it was like Tuesday through to Saturday. Oh no, Monday, Tuesday was my day off, so it would be Wednesday through to Sunday.
Yep.
I'd be Wednesday to Friday would be like 4 till 8. Mm-hmm. Those would be the classes, and then Saturday, Sunday were 9 till 5. So it was weird because Monday, Tuesday were the days off.
Mm.
For most other people, that's not their days off.
Yeah.
So if a lot of things could be closed, that was annoying. But all the days I did work, it was like weird because you sort of, I got the whole morning, but then half the time you're waking up kind of hungover, and so you get up at midday and you're like, gee, I gotta ride my bike to school in a couple of hours. I guess that's it then. But yeah, I was a bit of a garbage bag probably. I was drinking a lot and just hanging out. Watching stuff that I downloaded, and probably could have the first 6 months I probably could have done a bit more to immerse myself, kind of thing. I kind of maybe kept to myself a little bit, and the Beijing winter is a bummer too. It's like polluted and cold, awful. Did
the actual smog and all that type of stuff, isn't that pretty horrible there?
It's horrible. It's like it's not as horrible as you think it's going to be, but it is also still pretty horrible.
Yeah.
So I used to describe it like, take an average week, like average 7 days. One of them would be perfect blue sky. 3 or 4 of them would be like this sort of yellowy tinge kind of thing. Not great, but not bad once you get used to it. Just put on a mask. And then, I've lost track of the maths there, but then 2 of them would be proper, how the BBC would say, just in, Beijing is covered in smog. And so you get blue sky, but it would be like,
rare.
Yeah. I think they did well to indoctrinate me, because when it made you appreciate the blue sky.
Yeah.
You're like, oh wow, it's a blue sky, and you're like, no, this is how it should be.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be a gift.
Yes, that's very true. So would you I've never experienced that type of stuff, only when we had remember the bushfires a few years ago, and we had
just before COVID. I remember,
is it sort of like that?
Yeah.
You kind of look like, ugh, this isn't natural.
Yeah, my girlfriend arrived that summer of the bushfires, the one before COVID, and she was like,
Australia sucks.
Yeah, well, the summer was terrible. That pre-COVID summer, it was really cold. Yeah. And also, but then when it kind of heated up, we had the bushfires. That was the last memory before COVID. It's just, even in the city, I was saying this is like Beijing, I should be wearing a mask. Yeah. It's gross. Yeah. Very similar.
Yeah, okay, yeah. It's just a weird, I'm glad we don't have to deal with that in Melbourne, Australia.
Yeah. I do think I'm more conscious of what I breathe now though, like when I'm walking down the street and cars are going by and you get that monoxide and
hot.
Yeah, that hot sort of, kind of like when a train goes past in the subway, that hot wind and the fuel smell, and I'm more aware of that now. I'm more like, like when I always have the car on.
Flashback to Beijing.
Yeah, like I always have the like the car. What do you call it? You know, one you can turn off the air coming in. I'm way more conscious of that now because it's like, I mean. On the other hand, the damage has already been done from living in Beijing for a year, so I may as well start smoking. I don't know.
Speaking of that, like things like, I've never lived in China and don't know too much about it, but are things like luxury items, cigarettes, alcohol, are they cheap, expensive? What's cost of living like?
I think cost of living is really low.
Yeah.
Except for apartments. Like that seems like a constant, like even in cheap cities. In cheap countries, if you want to live somewhere in the city, that's still just gonna
trade off.
It's very cheap over there. The cost of living. Even if you buy an apartment, like my girlfriend was living on like the 5th Ring Road. Like I don't know how we talk. That's how you talked in Beijing. The ring roads. Which ring road are you closest to?
Yeah.
And it was like She was out and she was paying like 2,000 kwai a month, which is probably like $400 a month.
Yeah.
That makes divide by 5. Yeah, so even apartments, if you live out in the burbs outside, it's very low cost of living.
Yeah,
it's great. And that's why teaching English is very lucrative, because you cleared a lot of cash, high demand.
Yeah, okay.
And then low cost of living, so it's party time.
Yeah, sweet. So you actually had like a fair amount of disposable income.
Probably too much. Yes. Probably too much. More than I deserved.
Fuck. So, sorry, the technical difficulties.
I paused because I thought you were going to leave in an editing gap for you.
Nah, fuck that.
Oh, okay. We're real here.
I like the rawness of how
love it. Okay, I was just like...
shit these Amazon fucking lights are.
Yeah, take that, Amazon.
Yeah,
improve your lights and we'll stop shitting on them.
Also sponsor me, thank you.
Yeah. Did you ever listen to Harmontown?
No.
Dan Harmon, the guy who wrote Community, he had a podcast, and his offsider, Jeff Davis, would always... He'd be like, this podcast is brought to you by Adidas, the shoe that gives you herpes. And it was like the joke being like, hey, Adidas, sponsor us and we'll stop shitting on you.
Well, I think Amazon would more likely just pay someone to murder me.
I see. Yeah, it gets like that. Just
I don't know.
Or worse, make them work
allegedly,
for it. Make you work
I think
for
allegedly. I don't know if I'm allowed to say
I don't know. No.
That's to be honest.
Praise be to Bezos. Praise be to Bezos.
Yeah. I love that guy. I love Spaceman. So you're in Beijing, cost of living's cheap, you're rolling in money.
I pissed a lot of it away though. I remember 6 months in looking at my bank balance and being like, well, I thought I was making a lot of money.
Yeah.
There was a lot of upfront costs from the rent. You have to pay like 3 months in advance because you're a foreigner and they're scared you're going to run away.
Okay.
And I think I was just eating out every night and drinking. So then I got a bit of a scare. That Christmas, like, where did all my money go? But then eventually I straightened up a little bit and started to make a bit of money, which would be nice. Would have been nice if I sort of restrained myself.
Yeah.
When the good times are good, it's great. And then, like, now you're like, hey, could have used some of that Beijing money. Whoopsie daisy. Yeah.
So, what did you do, like, for extracurricular, outside of work? You said you drank and, like, because we haven't mentioned this, but you do a shit ton of comedy in Melbourne, sort of how we met. You run comedy nights, quizzes and things like that. We'll get into that stuff a bit later, but had you started stand-up before going to China?
No, and I didn't start it in Beijing. It was in Chengdu, the second tour of duty. Yeah.
So you started doing stand-up in China?
Yeah. My first gig was in a place called The Bookworm in Chengdu.
Shout out The Bookworm.
Yeah, I think it's gone, but whatever.
Rest in peace, The Bookworm.
Yeah. I will remember you. But no, I will, because it was a cool gig. It was kind of a dream first gig. It was like a guy... Do you remember the film Dude, Where's My Car?
I do.
Do you remember the cult leader, Zoltan, in the film?
Yeah.
The guy who played Zoltan, his name's Hal Sparks. Shout out. And whatever.
Sparky.
And Sparks, yeah. Hell of a guy. Comedy. And then but he was headlining. It was just an open...
Really?
Yeah, it was an open mic kind of like, line-up show, but they only did one every 2 months or whatever, and this guy was touring, and he was doing a documentary about how he was doing comedy in China.
Yeah, yeah.
And so there was a big crowd, and not to mention cameras and stuff. Not that bothered me, but yeah, I went up. I was kind of in a bit of a. We'll talk about it probably, but I was kind of a bit directionless, and I just said I'm going to do stand up, and I went up to the guy Rob Bryan, who kind of is I think still the king of Chengdu comedy. And I was like, can I get on tonight? I just wanted to try. And he's like, yeah, sure, man, get on. And yeah, I got on, and it was like 50 people. I'd rehearsed this really tight, well, not tight, but like really, like word for word, like a script. And I did it, and went well, because it was all like low-hanging fruit stuff. Like, I'm an English teacher. Any other English teachers? Yeah, I could tell because you're all dead inside or whatever.
Yeah.
And it went well, and I don't think I would have kept, who knows if I bombed that first one, who knows if I would have kept doing it. Maybe not. I don't know.
It's crazy that you started in China, though.
Yeah, everyone asked, like, did you do it in Chinese? It's like, no, it's all to backpackers and English teachers. It was an expat crowd. But then I don't think I did another one for a few months.
Yep.
Just, like that when you start comedy and it's like, I did a gig, and you kind of... but then it's like, no, you have to go to the next one. Where's the next one?
Like,
is there another tonight? Let's do it. Let's keep the momentum going. And it wasn't until, like, early 2019 that... it so happened I was working with at the school I was working at in Chengdu, Tim Bigelow, who's I think just wrapped up his run at the Edinburgh Fringe. This English guy, he was teaching with me, and he's like, "You a comedian? I do comedy too." And we kind of me and him and this American dude, we kind of got a more of a regular thing happening in Chengdu, and we were doing like a gig a fortnight, which sounds minuscule, but for that place it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
We'd have like an open mic / lineup show every fortnight, and that's like you get 50 people.
Yeah.
And it was
glory days.
Yeah, kind of. It was hard to come back down from that. Kind of left there going,
yeah, comedy's gonna be easy.
I'm so good. I'm amazing. I'm crushing with these inside jokes about the Chengdu subway. Oh, that'll work at the Comics Lounge. That's went off on a bit of a tangent there, but that was when I first started doing comedy.
You started doing stand up in China.
Yeah.
And so you started getting a gig, every 2 weeks type thing.
Yeah, which seemed cool. Like I was like, but 2 weeks is enough time to forget you do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
By the end of the second week, you're like, oh yeah, I should, yeah. But what was cool, and I think it helps still, is it meant we had the same audience every week.
Yeah.
Which meant that I had to write new jokes, and I'm pretty sure most of them were trash. And the audience was just be very friendly and glad to hear, oh wow, we're watching because even though Chengdu was quite a cosmopolitan city, and you can easily find Western stuff there, I think expats and tourists, you kind of still, it's very different.
Yeah.
And so you hear about there's an English speaking comedy show, like, oh, it's like it's like when you're in a foreign country and you find the Irish pub, you're like, we should be immersing ourselves, but nah, come on, let's go watch the footy at the Irish pub. Yeah, you just want to do that. So I think that was why it was very popular and very friendly crowd. But because it was familiar faces every week, you'd write new jokes, So and that was, you'd tear up the set and you'd go, I got to write another new bunch of jokks again.
It'd keep you on your toes for that.
Yeah, and it gets into the habit of like, whereas here, you go, you still doing that joke? It's like, because you're sculpting it.
So I suppose you've gone from every 2 weeks in Chengdu?
Yeah, Chengdu, I think.
Chengdu.
Even I'm saying it wrong. I say Chengdu, but it's Chengdu, I think.
Yeah, I think Chengdu's in Thailand, actually. Anyway, like Chengdu, I think.
Chengdu is in Bali.
Is it?
It's like a hipster. It's like Brunswick Street in Bali.
Yeah, my mate lives there. Shout out to Jules.
Jules.
You're probably not listening.
You're living in Smith Street, Bali, basically. Yeah. That's where you go in Bali.
High Street.
I don't hang out in Kuta and Seminyak and Legian. It's gross there. I go to Chengdu and I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
Just go to Kuta and own it.
Yeah. Be the scumbag you are.
Yes.
But I just wanted to quickly touch on how many gigs a week you do now.
Yeah. What was the average? I probably average 10.
10 a week.
Yeah, of varying degrees of quality and quality in terms of my performance and the audience's interest. But
that's crazy though.
A couple of weeks you'll get like 3 or 4, and then the next week you'll suddenly go, oh, I'm booked here, or I've got there's three there, or someone calls you up and says, hey, do you want to drop in, or like, and and I cheat. I run a couple of the rooms too.
Yeah.
So I'm booked at Black Sheep. Don't you run Black Sheep? Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't run 10 nights.
No.
You know what I mean? Like, you're still getting, I assume, around that.
Yeah. It's just
8 mark.
Yeah. I get it's about that many. Yeah, probably average 10.
Yeah, sweet. I just wanted to do the contrast of when you started to now.
Yeah. Looking back at and being happy with 1 every 2 weeks in Chengdu. Sometimes I think you get lucky and someone would tour Chengdu and you could be one of the support acts.
Yeah.
And that would increase the amount, but it was just once a fortnight, and pretty bare. Yeah,
I mean, you've gone from pretty much what you would do in an entire year over there, to you would do more in 3 weeks.
100%. And you more gigs, the more data. It sounds very unromantic, but you just in the space of a night, or a couple of nights, you want to be able to go, does that work? Does that not? That's why we want more gigs here. That you can just, like pre-COVID times, you want more of those that, like, in a night you could work out, does this joke work? You don't have to... you don't have to waste a week going like, that joke stinks, why did I...
So, you're in China, you ended up doing stand-up in your second run of China, but in between that was Russia.
Yes.
So, I don't know if you actually addressed this, but you do have a Russian girlfriend.
I like how you say address it. Like, you want to address the fact that you're dating the enemy.
Yeah. This is the pro-Russia podcast.
Yes.
Just kidding. We're Ukraine.
She's Ukraine. She loves it.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, but it's tough. She said that Ukrainians don't care.
Oh. Well, don't care that she supports it?
Well, because at this time it's kind of surface level. It's like, I support you guys. Like, great, thanks. Yeah. That'll save my building from a drone strike. Thank you. Hashtag lovely.
Yeah.
It's a bit like that. So she kind of just. I told her she should just say she's Ukrainian. We couldn't tell the difference.
Yeah.
If that ever comes up, just be like, I'm from Kiev. No, but it's a bit of it. She's Russian, and we met. She was another teacher at the in Beijing at the school I worked at, and and then. We were about 4 months in, and she said, we're having a great time, and she said, I have to go back to Russia because her mum...
There's a war starting.
Her mum's job, her mum was going for a promotion, and it's a bit like they needed to do the background check, and it was kind of, why's your daughter...
In China.
Yeah, why's your daughter not here? Why aren't you a big, happy, nuclear family? So I got to go back to... China to Russia, and I'm like, I'll come with you, because I was in Beijing mode. I was just like, next adventure.
Sweet.
And by then I was kind of like, I like her, I love her, kind of like, it was a bit awkward because I'd already planned that. I mentioned I went through Laos. I'd already planned this sort of, road trip, Jack Kerouac kind of thing out of China down south through Laos to Thailand back home. And sort of I'd locked that in, and then she said I can't even remember the order it happened in, but. Basically, we said, we will meet in Ubud.
Okay,
And we bought tickets, and it's like, I'll do my thing, you go to Russia for a while, we'll meet in Indonesia. We went on a 2-month thing in Indonesia, and that was a good test, actually, because we were traveling together, and we were still having a good time. And then, separate again. She goes to Russia, I go to Australia, and then we met in Moscow in January 2017.
Yep.
And
Moscow, Russia. Not to be... What was it?
I think it's in Moscow in Ohio.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. It's kind of cool. I'd love to go there just to
probably
speak the language.
Vastly different. So you go to Moscow, you're living in Moscow?
Yeah, man.
What's that like? So you've gone from Australia, you're early, mid-20s, now we're like, around 28?
Yeah, 29 that year. Yeah. You mentioned going there. I left in January, so there's a photo of me, I think, down in Lorne on the beach, 35-degree heat, and then the week before, and then I arrive in Moscow, and it's snowing. It's full on snow, and the next day I'm trying to find the school I'm working at, I'm like...
So you're teaching English there now?
Yeah.
So what's the difference in like, you're doing after school sort of English training, let's call it, and then teaching... And,
scarring.
Yeah, scarring, yeah. Giraffe, money, yeah. And then you're in Moscow now teaching English. What are you doing after school, or is it at a school? Or?
No, it's adults. I was teaching adults
what's
mostly.
That like?
It was alright.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, I think learning English as an adult is a little bit different because you're like, if you learn a language or learn anything, we've sort of got all these. When you're a kid, you're just a sponge.
Yes.
You're like apple, giraffe. You don't even know what you're doing. Whereas an adult, you're like a lot of like, why am I learning this?
Yeah.
You're questioning like, it's hard to put it. So you cop a bit of that, and I think also my girlfriend tells me, because when I told her, she says Russians are very ashamed of their English level. If they can't speak English well, then they get a little like that.
Yeah, okay.
And I'm like, so they're maybe a little bit less willing of students. They'll kind of shut down. You have to be very careful if you tell them like, no, actually that's not to go down the English grammar path again. But like it's like, that's an adverb, not an adjective. You know, you do well, not good. They'll be like, oh, okay, and you're like kind of like, no, it's okay.
Igor, it's fine.
Yeah, Igor, please don't. It's fine. It's just, mistakes are good.
Yeah.
It helps me to. Yeah, but they get a little shy about that.
Kids are just like they're just used to being wrong all the time.
Yeah, they are wrong. They're just by default. So but yeah, that was fun. I got to see a lot of. The only thing was, I was an independent contractor kind of thing, you know. So it was like all my students could disappear, you know, on a given month. You know what I mean? Yeah, they you know what I mean. Like, what happened to Igor? You don't need to know what happened to Igor.
Scripted?
Yeah, he used an adverb instead of adjective. Let's just say, but like they could just say, I don't want to learn anymore.
Yeah,
like,
so we're done.
And so my income was actually all right, but it was so
volatile.
Fraught and is that the word fraught?
Yeah,
I'm the English teacher. Yeah. You know, like you never knew. 1 month I could make nothing. Another month I could make like 150,000 rubles, which isn't much money now. But like back then, 15,000 quiet. So that'd be $3,000 a month.
Okay. Yeah.
So it would, but it could be zero. So I worked really hard. I overbooked myself.
Yeah.
So I was looking back. I could have relaxed, but I was just so worried. Like, is Tait gonna rock up for the lesson? No, if he doesn't rock up, I don't get the money. So
yeah, true.
Yeah.
So what's life like living in? So you're living in China, cost of living super cheap, but obviously you were saying like apartments and stuff where the money is. What is it like now living in Russia? Cost of living. Yeah,
again the apartment was doing us in quite a bit. And it wasn't a good apartment. It was pretty. It shouldn't have been as expensive as it was.
Yeah.
Also, the landlord situation's a little bit sus there. You know, they're like, don't sign that. Otherwise, I pay tax. You just give me money. You know.
Really?
So that's cool. But then if something goes wrong, then
this person doesn't live here.
Yeah, and it's like, where's our landlord? Oh, he's on holiday in the Dominican Republic again. The Dominican Republic holiday thing. I think that's a Russian rich guy stereotype. Like, where is he? He's in the Dominican Republic. He was always there. He was always in the Dominican Republic. He was probably the floor below, just hiding in his closet.
I was thinking that's what I would do. I'm like, tell him I'm in the fucking Dominican Republic.
Isn't that what happened to Prigozhin, the Wagner guy? He's like, he's in the Dominican Republic now. He's in a better place. Anyway, but like. This so many warnings are going to appear when people try to download this podcast.
The AI clip machine that does my clips online's going to be like, I can't use that one. For Russia.
Those pesky network notes. Damn it. Neural network notes, I guess, because it's AI. Okay, never mind. But basically, cut that out. But basically, the apartment was crazy. Cost of living, it was pretty cheap. What I noticed in Moscow is there was nowhere to. China's got a big restaurant culture. Every corner is like everywhere's a restaurant. Russia, I was always in Moscow there were just not that many. That's just something that popped into my head.
So what are you just making your own food then? No.
Yeah, way more. In fact, you know what? For 4 months in Russia, I was vegan. Don't know why. Don't know what happened. I think my girlfriend was going down a health guru kind of path.
Yeah.
And she already made me a vegetarian. Actually, I wanted to try it, and I did that for a while. And then she said, "Let's do veganism." And we went vegan in Moscow.
How was that?
Pretty. I mean, like, I would have stuck with it, but I like eggs.
Yeah, okay. You still vegan now?
No, I'm like just Mediterranean, like, what do you call it? Moderation diet, like a bit of everything guy, you know.
Yeah. Healthy is what he's
Healthy.
Say, yeah. So he looks at the obese man on the other side of him, but...
I don't know what you're talking about. I only see inner beauty.
I don't see inner beauty.
No, I only see inner beauty, so I'm still looking.
It's gonna sound fucked.
So I'm just regretting bringing up that stupid restaurant anecdote. Like, there are more restaurants in Beijing, and I'm like, Tait's just like, cool. That's awesome, Joel. Anyway, Moscow. Yeah, but the only thing about Moscow is I worked really hard, so I didn't get to... Oh, and veganism meant I couldn't eat much there. You know, you couldn't really just... And no drinking. I wasn't really drinking real straight edge, so...
This is very different from China being a rat bag.
Yeah, it probably was maybe some overcompensation for the rat bag China ways, I reckon.
I suppose also, too, like, you're there with your partner and it's a bit easier to just chill out.
Yeah.
And like, we just hang out and do our thing and get to know each other a lot more, and it's not going out and trying to chase women.
Half the drinking is, well, more than 90% of it is, I'm going out to drink and try and meet a lady. When you got a girlfriend, you're like, well, why am I doing that? But basically, I think there might have been some overcompensation for the rat bag ways. Also, I was 29. And hangovers at 29 start to become very brutal. And that's what happened. I did probably at the start... went out for a drink, and then next morning you're like, I had 1 pint, and my head's killing me. I hit that age too, so...
Yeah, that's fair. What would you say that you loved and hated about Russia?
Ooh, okay, what did I love?
Don't say your girlfriend either.
No, I was going to say something wanky like the architecture.
Okay.
I don't know, I like the language. I like Russian language.
How is your Russian?
Pretty good. Like, alright.
Yeah.
Probably my best one of the... I can speak Russian, some Chinese, Mandarin, some Indonesian. Yeah, those ones. That's it.
But Russia would be your main...
Yeah, because I'm with a Russian every day. We speak a little Russian every day. The language is fun. The winter was amazing because it's like that winter wonderland kind of thing.
Real snow.
I'm sure if I kept living there, I would have got sick of it, like shoveling and, you know, gross. But the metro was great. I mean, public transport in Melbourne, you go to any other city and you're like,
oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
It works.
Actually,
more than one area.
There's no. They don't say when they don't say the time the train is coming. They just say there is another train in 3 minutes. There's no. You know, here we're like, we'll catch the 128 Auburn. It's like, nah, there'll be. You just rock up to the station. It's like, there's another train.
Keeps going.
And another.
Yeah.
It's because it's enormous, and when you have that many people, you can do that.
Yeah.
Because there's the demand for it, but
also too, if they need to do it, they just do it.
Yeah.
Whereas here is we're like, no, we're gonna kill the muskrat.
Yeah, here we.
It's just like, fuck the muskrat. Let me go to fucking Dandenong. Know, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I remember going to Dubai, and my dad and I. This was like ages ago, and we're looking at the architecture in the 5-lane, 10-lane freeway going right through the middle of the city, and we're kind of like, I don't want to say I'm pro-autocracy, but they do just get it done, don't they?
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you roll that crapshoot of autocracy. Sometimes they'll like do a genocide. Sometimes they'll build a nice big road that gets you to work really quickly without any debate. I've got to be honest. It's tempting to roll that dice sometimes.
Yeah, get shit done.
Clip this.
Yeah. Joel's rant.
What didn't I like?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Now
you can say this. No.
Yeah. Putin.
Yeah.
Oh, what a hero.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I like Navalny and I hate Putin. Hashtag peace. I don't know. Great. Make me
That's
go.
the final clip out.
Please delete that. Leave in the autocracy rant.
Yeah.
Anyway, no. What I didn't like was a very practical peeve. In China, people knew I couldn't speak Chinese very well. They saw this.
Yes.
And they're like, they assumed I couldn't speak Chinese. And then I went to Russia, and I could be Russian. You know what I mean? We could be Russian. There's no reason. So people would come up to me, start talking to me in Russian, assuming I could speak Russian, and it led to some very frustrating moments. They were kind of just looking at me like, "Are you?" A lot of people probably thought I had something wrong, because I'd just be like, "Oh." And on top of that, I wanted to learn Russian, but in Moscow, a lot of English-speaking Russians, so the minute they could detect an accent, they'd be like, "Oh, I can speak English," and you'd be like, "Well, that's wonderful, and you're not my Russian teacher, so okay, we'll speak English. Yes, I'll have a latte and all that." And then, secondly, when I tried to speak Russian, this happened once, but when I tried to speak Russian with a colleague, she just said, "Why are you speaking Russian? It is not a useful language." You know, and she's right, kind of.
Yeah,
a little.
If you're there.
Yeah, if you're there, yeah, but if in Moscow in particular, maybe if you're out in the country, but if you're in Moscow, most people speak English, so why waste time learning Russian? It's not, but I was doing it because I like learning languages, or trying to.
Yeah.
And language and culture, I think, are kind of connected. So you learn the language, you learn more about the country. So, yeah, I was met with a bit of pushback in trying to learn Russian. So I'm probably learning more Russian now in Australia, talking to my girlfriend, mostly about the weather.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah. So that's my... I hated that about Russia. And Putin. There we go. Down a lens.
Yeah.
Calling you out, Vlad.
You piece of shit.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. You're great.
It's like that. It's like far out. Now it's become the Tait talks, as in who, and some other Tait that comes to mind.
Too fat for that.
But it reminds me of the Norm Macdonald joke about, like, I've been reading a lot about that Hitler lately. I gotta say, I don't want to sound controversial, but that Hitler was a real jerk. Like, really taking the big guys to task today.
Yeah. Putin is bad. Let's just reiterate. Putin bad.
Literally has poo in the name. Don't know if you knew that. Putin.
And Andrew Tate also.
Kind of sounds like
I
Tait.
think the worst thing is, my middle name's Andrew.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I had a friend at school named Andrew Tate.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
Spelled like your first name.
Yeah, it's dumb. I get it. Okay, so Russia, we've done China. You've come back. COVID is upon us now.
Yeah.
You've brought fucking apparently COVID.
Yeah.
Your friends are scared that you're the one who hasn't been inoculated or taken over too many beakers.
Just because I brought bats to that Australia Day party. Yeah. Like, have some pangolin.
Yeah. You started comedy in Melbourne, obviously a lot more. You do your own nights and stuff now. But the other thing you did mention is you do, like, was it trivia nights?
Yeah, pub quizzes.
So how did that come about? Is that just an extension of comedy? Is that just a way to get paid?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, no, seriously, it's like it came up on one of those Facebook hubs. Yeah. By the way, I was done with Facebook after China got me off Facebook, and then and then I came back, and I'm like, how do I find where the gigs are? And everyone's like, it's on Facebook. I'm like, what are you talking about? It's 2019. And yeah.
The thing I just wanted to jump in quickly. You lived in China. Obviously, there is a lot of, like, censorship and stuff like that. Do they know it? Or do you ever talk to them and be like, the rest of the world has this and that?
Yeah, they know.
So, okay, sweet.
Well, they all use VPNs too.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So they're like, it's pretty fucked over here.
Yeah. They are aware, but I don't think they really mind. It's hard to say, because no one really wants to... I never really talk to them about it.
You can't be like, hey, what's this like? And they're like, you'll get us both killed.
Yeah, I haven't really talked about it with him, but a guy like Sean Diao or... William Wong, shout out to those two guys in the comedy scene. They'd probably have some opinions about it. Like, I don't know how... Yeah, I don't know how many people there care, True. They just... Yeah. But I tell you what, I felt like it was 2012 again, because I was downloading everything while I was in China.
Yeah, okay.
Just like, because I was like, well, I want to watch Rick and Morty.
Oh, yeah, because you don't have no Netflix and stuff?
Well, I think you could get... Netflix around that time got real... finicky with the whole geo-blocking thing.
Yeah, okay.
So even if you used a VPN, they'd still be like,
no.
So, but I'm not that technologically literate. I'm sure someone will comment on this going like, you're an idiot, you can still...
Yeah.
But the minute it says you're geo-blocked, I'm like, well, I guess I'm downloading it. Yeah, easy to steal, kids.
We're actually sponsored by Pirate Bay, so...
Shout out.
Yeah.
Shout out. I was more of a Kick-Ass Torrent.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, they're out direct competition, so
Oh, jeez.
I think they're out of business too.
Whoopsie daisy.
But the quizzes.
The quizzes. They were on the Facebook hubs. That's how we got to that, because on Facebook I found there was like an ad for question 1 trivia, and it said apply if you want to do it, and it was the whole like if you're a comedian, want more stage time.
Oh, really? So they're actually actively promoting comics
Yeah.
to go do it.
I guess because we have the charisma and stage presence.
And it's also a dope that can hold a microphone and not get stage fright.
Essentially. And I've been doing that for, first one was similar, was it March last year?
Yeah,
first one. I got a gig down at Grape and Grain in Moorabbin.
Yeah.
like even from here, that's quite a fair way away. It's like not near where I live.
Yeah.
And I thought I'll just do that for that week, and I hand it over when I've got a better gig, like if I'm doing a comedy gig that's worth it, and then down in Moorabbin and filling in elsewhere, and it was just because money and kind of like stage time sometimes too. Like you're cracking wires on stage as well there.
Yeah.
You're doing crowd work, and also it kind of helped me with the crowd work not being too brutal, because at a trivia night you still get those looks of people going, I just came here to answer questions about capital cities and the distance from this to this. Why are you
Why are you talking to me?
Why are you talking? Why are you being funny? So you quickly learn, feel the pulse of the crowd. Like, I'll just get on with it, or like, hey, I can say something here, and that I think that helps. And I think most, I don't know, maybe I'm like people come to see me a little bit at them. Joel's trivia night down in. Yeah, Joel will be there. Joel's the host. That kind of, I think I'm part of the appeal.
Yeah.
Sort of can mold the night into your shape, I guess.
Do you have to do any of the stuff, as in like you make the trivia nights, or is it a pack and you just read through it?
Yeah, they just give me the questions.
Yeah.
I sometimes get rid of 1 or 2 and add my own. The most work I do is I make the Who Am I.
Okay.
So each week I do a Who. That's for like a bonus drink and some points. I do a Who Am I.
Yeah, okay.
So that's always fun, and that can get pretty chaotic. But apart from that, basically, there's the questions, and off I go.
Yeah,
man, it's been good money actually.
Yeah, that's my next venture, is to haul myself out into that work.
Do it, yeah.
I want money.
Yeah, get into that, because I think there's a lot of demand for it.
Oh, mate, every second pub that I see is like either dead or they're like, we have a trivia night. It's like, well, the ones that have trivia nights seem to have people there, so.
And people love it. It's such a cultural. I've met some people who said trivia, but I love it. I'm there a lot, when I'm just not at my one, but at other ones with mates, just doing it.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain to people not from maybe the UK or here, and I guess they do it in New Zealand probably too.
Yeah, okay.
And I guess in Ireland. But outside of there, like I've had students go like, "What do you do outside of English teaching?" And it's I'll try and it's fun to try and explain it, but it's so, pubs, and you know how people go to pubs to have a good time. Well, some people go to pubs to answer questions and get points and win beer, and then also you do that. Like, no, I'm the guy who asks the questions. It's very.
I'm the one who knocks.
Yeah. When I say to you, pub quiz host, it's like, cool.
Yeah.
Just explain it to someone from like
another country that doesn't have that is just gibberish.
Explain it to a Taiwanese software engineer.
Yeah.
I've had to do that a few times.
Okay.
And he's like, and then usually it's just at the end, it's just, okay. Can we do some English grammar now?
Yeah.
That's a good way to get them into the grammar. If they're scared of the English grammar in an English lesson, just bore the shit out of them with your pub trivia story, and then go, all right, can we learn about adverbs?
Yeah. Genius. Joel, I think that's enough for us.
I could talk all day, but yes.
Give us some plugs.
Oh, okay. Follow me on Instagram, Joel Temperley, just at Joel Temperley.
How do you spell Temperley?
T-E-M, T for Tom, Temperly.
Yep.
And just Instagram. I'm uploading clips of stand-up there quite a bit, trying to go viral and failing. And Black Sheep. Can I do the nights? Yeah, a stand-up comedy at Black Sheep in Auburn, first and third Thursdays. Comedy in the Cellar every Friday. That's down in St Kilda. You can just Google or look at them all up on Instagram. And Itty Bitty Comedy on Tuesday nights in St Kilda also. Itty Bitty Comedy. You can find all of them on social media. And yeah, that's about it for me. Go to Blues.
Oh, you're a blue bag.
Yeah.
Well, they're better than the other teams.
Who's your team?
Geelong, but they suck.
We've had a good 20 years.
Yeah, I mean, they're still referred to as the reigning premiers, but that's beside the point. Anyway.
Lame duck premiers.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been great.
I hope we figured everything out.
Yeah, just the fucking lights turning on and off was my bane of...
Gave a little nightclub feel to it.
Yeah.
I'm just glad we finally...
Stroke feel.
I'm just glad we finally called out Putin.
Yes, that was the main idea.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be more like, yeah, we love him, but it's not the way that we went. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. We will be back next week with your mate Igor. All right.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, no kidding.